Our topic today is webinar marketing for estate planning and elder law attorneys. I really wanted to cover this topic today because it's so very important. Why is it so important? Well, webinar marketing is not the end all and be all of marketing. It's not a magic bullet. It's not magic pixie dust that solves everything. But you know what? In the digital marketing landscape today, there isn't a magic pixie dust or a silver bullet that solves everything. And what we're in right now, our market is very tight. I know you guys already feel that. The market is really tight. And so getting those leads and getting new clients, it's kind of like everybody's top of mind issue right now is we just have to keep business coming in the door very steadily. At the same time, SEO has become really difficult. And I am not by any means saying to give up on SEO. SEO is very important. But Google is having a hard time keeping up with this explosion of artificial intelligence. And so they just keep issuing new algorithm updates, and I mean major updates. So this makes the SEO rankings really volatile. You'll see a lot of websites going up and going down based on their organic marketing, their search engine optimization. And just this week, Google issued another huge algorithm update, core update, and a lot of websites are getting de-indexed. So as far as I can tell, none of our clients' websites are in the classification that would be de-indexed, and we haven't seen anything that really has impacted. But this is the market that we're living in. This is what's going on in the marketplace right now. There's a lot of volatility with Google and with Google search. So we don't want to rely entirely on Google search. And we want to understand what Google is trying to de-index. So one of our biggest weapons right now is authentic, original content that you and we together create for you. A webinar is an excellent tool for us right now. I'm going to go through kind of how it all works, but I want you to understand that when you create an authentic, original webinar, long form video, and you use paid advertising, not entirely relying on organic or search engine optimization, you're sort of saying, this is the landscape that I see in digital marketing right now, and this looks like the path of least resistance. This looks like the best bet for me right now to augment my lead flow. So that's why we're really focusing right now on webinar marketing. So I'm going to jump in. I just wanted to give you an overview as to why this is so important right now. And also let you know that, should the internet go out on me, we will go ahead and record this and make sure y'all get the replay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and jump right into the training. Okay, here we go. So webinar marketing, how to get the biggest return on investment for your webinar marketing investment. What we're going to cover today is how to get people hooked interested in watching your webinar and staying through the webinar, and then booked so that you get more business booked in your law firm. I'm going to show you how to leverage your webinar video to build authority and dominate your market online. And that's really what I was talking about at the beginning today. This webinar video that we're talking about, just the crux of your webinar marketing campaign, is pretty immune from any of the Google algorithm updates. It's something that's going to work for you no matter what Google is doing. And so that's why it's so important right now, is Google just trying to figure out who they are and what they're doing. And, so we can kind of say, okay, Google, you do your thing. We're going to do this thing that isn't really that dependent on the search engine algorithm. And then I'm going to talk about 3 things that you're probably not doing now and that you should be doing in order to book more business from your webinars. So if you stay to the end, if you've been to any of my webinars, you know that I always have what I call an ethical bribe, because I know people like to jump in and jump out of webinars. So I really want you to stay all the way through. So at the end, I'm going to share a QR code for you with the bonus materials for you to download. And in that Google folder, you're going to find a cheat sheet for hot topics that you could use for your webinar topics, things that are trending now. How to create an avatar worksheet for your ideal client. You're going to have a whole webinar workbook to help you develop your webinar marketing strategy. And then I've got a cheat sheet for all of the specifications that you need to use your webinar video clips across social media. It'll be one place that you can go to get the specifications, so you don't have to keep researching all over the internet. So stay tuned to the end, and I'll share that QR code with you. Again, if for some reason the internet should go out, I will definitely be emailing you that link along with the replay. So for those of you who don't know me, I am the CEO and co-founder of Integrity Marketing Solutions. We've been in business since 1995, and we have always focused exclusively on estate planning and elder law. And workshops and webinars has always been a part of our marketing strategy for attorneys in these practice areas. We also use webinars ourselves to promote ourselves. So we eat our own cooking, so to speak. And through our own webinars, we have generated more than $6 million in new revenue for our agency. So what I'm telling you today about webinar marketing, it's not theory, it's not hypothetical, it's not like this ought to work. This is what we've been doing with our clients and with ourselves. So we know what works, and we know, how well it works, and really what doesn't work. Like I said, we help estate planning and elder lawyers grow their law firms. A lot of people come to us for a website. A website is just part of what we do. It's part of the whole mix of what we do with clients. But how we really see ourselves is as a partner with you to grow your law firm, to make it more profitable and more enjoyable for you. So again, it's a little bit difficult. Sometimes people come to us and they just want one thing. And, it's a little bit of a mindset shift in that, that may not be the one thing that you actually need right now to grow your practice. Let's have a conversation about it. Let's look at where you are and what your best next strategy step should be. So that's really how we see ourselves. We're not just selling one thing because that's what we do. We really partner with you to grow your firm. So on to webinar marketing. What are the hardest parts that I see for webinars and workshops, and to make them work for you, to actually make them work? And the first one is, I think there are so many options as to how you would deliver a webinar, how you would use a webinar in your marketing, as well as your workshops, that it's hard to decide what exactly you should be doing. Should you be doing live webinars? Should you be doing live workshops? Should you take your workshop and just record it and put it up on the internet? What is actually going to be your strategy? And that's really where we begin with our clients, is talking about what is going to be the best strategy for you, given your market, given your resources, given your expectations. So I think just narrowing it down as to what is exactly my strategy with webinar marketing is probably one of the hardest things. And then the other thing that I think is really hard is that a lot of attorneys have invested quite a bit in webinar marketing, and they just don't have enough to show for it. So one of the things I'm going to go over today is how to make sure that you don't drop the ball on the 1-yard line in your webinar marketing, that you get the webinar set up and that it's working well, but then that you are able to convert those leads into new business. Because if you can't do that, it's like you've marched all the way down the field, but you didn't score. And sometimes you didn't even get a field goal, right? So we want to be sure that the investment that you make in webinar marketing ends up showing up on your bottom line in your law firm. The biggest mistake, obviously, is not having a clear plan. Because it's like a teeter-totter. People say, well, I'm just going to go all in. I'm going to put all the money in, and we're going to do this webinar. And they don't have a clear plan. And so they've overinvested. Or, and this may be worse, they say, I'm just not sure that it's going to work. So I'm just going to do something on my own. I'm going to record something, and I'm just going to pop it up there on my website and just kind of hope that people will watch it. And then, both of those things can result in big frustration. So obviously, the most important part of this is developing your strategy before you jump in with both feet on the webinar, or just trying to dabble in it. Y'all know that if you're dabbling in things, it doesn't really have an impact on your bottom line. It just kind of is a fun activity or hobby. So what is the opportunity with webinar marketing? And that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today. And at the beginning of our class today, when I talked about what's going on with Google, we work really closely with our clients on search engine optimization. SEO is an ongoing issue. There's so much that goes into SEO. There's the map pack, which is completely different than organic search. And then, there's your Google business profile and your reviews. Oh, there's so much that goes into it. And you need to be doing that. But right now, Google is like having this total identity crisis, and they're changing their algorithm, big, major changes, like once a week. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but not much. So we want to insulate ourselves from what is happening with Google and artificial intelligence. And we want to use this strategy, which is a very original, authentic video that is yours. It's not, obviously, it's not subject to AI. It's not subject to plagiarism. It's original and authentic content. And we want to leverage it as much as we can. And what I see is with the clients that we have that are using the webinar marketing, they basically have been completely insulated from any of the SEO changes, and their lead flow is very steady. When we're managing their ads for their webinars, if we see a lull in their lead flow, we get right in there and we start making changes to get it back up. And those are things that we can control. Whereas with search engine optimization, we can't always control what identity Google thinks they have today. So the opportunity here is to really insulate yourself from the vagaries of the market, to drive leads and drive ROI in a much more controllable way, and also to pre-qualify your prospects. When you create that original authentic webinar, you're putting yourself out there. And the people who are going to be your best clients are going to be attracted to you. The people who are going to be maybe not your best clients, they're probably not going to click with you, right? When they see your webinar, there's going to be some disconnect, and that's a good thing. That helps to pre-qualify your prospects, so your time in meeting with new prospects is best invested. So that's the real opportunity with the webinar marketing. If you have revenue goals, and I don't know anybody who doesn't, you need to be able to generate enough leads to hit your targets so you can grow your firm. So there's all these things that go into, as you know, go into growing revenue. And having enough leads is a critical component of being able to do that. So if your lead flow goes way down, you're going to have a hard time hitting your revenue goals, no matter what your fee structure is, no matter what your sales process is. So the lead flow is kind of like at the beginning or the top of the funnel, right, of the revenue growth. So webinars marketing can be a real help in boosting your lead flow. So you had a certain amount of lead flow from your client referrals, a certain amount from your professional referrals, a certain amount from your networking, and then you can add this on to everything else that you're doing to really kind of turbocharge that lead flow, and you have some control over it. What we are seeing with our clients and with ourselves through the years is that webinar marketing can deliver a tremendous return on investment. It also can be a big sinkhole. So what I want to do today is share with you kind of the tips and tricks of how you get to the great return instead of the sinkhole, okay? The other thing that's really important here, one of the things that Google looks for when they're looking at your content and your website, they want to see whether you are trustworthy and credible. And so we have a kind of a catchword in the marketing field of, we call that topical authority. So can you build topical authority? And when you have topical authority, then you can dominate online your local market. Well, right now, there are a lot of people who are kind of trying to leverage artificial intelligence to basically spam their website with a ton of content. And that's what Google is de-indexing. The cool thing about your webinar video is it's not going to be subject to that. Your webinar video can really be redistributed across the internet, including YouTube and social media, as well as your website. And it can literally generate hundreds of engaging, authoritative posts, and none of them are considered spam. All of them are going to increase your topical authority because this is original, authentic, and valuable content that is produced by an expert. The fact that you have JD after your name gives you a lot of credibility with Google right there. So if we do this properly, we can get a lot of value from that webinar video beyond the direct leads, okay? We can actually boost you so that you're getting a lot more leads that maybe don't actually come right through your funnel, but they're still coming in your door. And so that's what we want to do, is make sure that every dime that you invest in your webinar marketing is working for you. So we want to optimize every aspect of this. So as I said at the beginning, we want to set clear goals. When I talk about who is your ideal client and what are they looking for? What's going to be compelling to them? What's going to be a webinar that's going to hook them and keep them engaged and then get them to book a call? And you have to really get kind of step into their shoes. So that's one reason why just buying a webinar from somebody that they've made, for a lot of other clients and just throwing your name on it is not a good strategy. And what you want to do is really identify your ideal client and design your webinar for that person. What is your revenue target? How many leads are you going to need to be able to hit your revenue goals? How many appointments do you have to be able to hit your revenue goals? And then when you have those appointments, what's your average fee and what's your closing ratio? So we want to do everything that we can to build your credibility and your authority, to bring in your ideal clients and help set you up to be able to close those clients at premium fees. And the webinar is a very powerful tool in that process. So we have the message, the market, and the media. Those are the three things that we're looking at today, okay? Firstly, let's talk about message in relation to your market. Choose a topic that is of interest to your target market that's going to get them hooked. Let me give you some examples of topics that kind of fall flat in the marketplace. Do you need a living trust? Let me just say that most people are not sitting around at their breakfast table having coffee with their spouse thinking, I wonder, do we need a living trust? That's just not a topic that is going to be compelling to them. So I want you to think a little bit deeper about what your ideal client, what are they sitting around the breakfast table drinking coffee with their spouse saying, I'm really concerned about. And those are the topics then that you want to base your webinars around. It takes a little bit of thinking. You guys are really good at this. All of my estate planning and elder law clients are very good at listening. And when I walk them through this exercise, they can almost do it with their eyes closed. You know who your ideal client is, and you know so much about them, what their objections are, where they go for their information, what are their pain points. You already know it, but walking through this exercise will help you solidify it and communicate it to the rest of your team and to my team if we're helping you build your webinar. So in the bonus materials, I have this worksheet that you can walk through. And I want you to take a little bit of time to just step into your client's shoes. It's a really good exercise to actually give that person a name. Make it an individual person, the person that you most help and that you most enjoy helping. And then kind of dig down. Like I said, you already know all this stuff. You just need to kind of bring it into one place. What is it that's going to be compelling to them? What are their challenges? What are their pain points? What are their objections? What are their fears? Why have they not already taken care of their estate plan or planned for, paying for nursing care in later life? Those things. Why have they not already done that? I just want you to get this onto the worksheet so you can refer back to it and you can communicate it and you can start building your topics, your webinar topics, and the segments and the points of your webinar around what's going to really resonate with your ideal client. So we want to know things like their demographics. Are they a homeowner? What age are they? Who's the real decision maker? Is it the man or the woman? If you are, it depends on where, what your business is like too. So if you're doing like asset protection for the physicians, a lot of those people are probably going to be men, but that woman is going to have an influence as well. So what's your ideal situation there? Do you need to be appealing to both genders or one primarily? Are they married? What's their household income? Are they family oriented? Is there family issues most important to them? Just walk through these things and write them down. That will help you be more concise in your topic planning. What are their fears and what are their goals and their desires? Choose a topic that will interest them, that will zero in on those. And in the bonus materials, I've got some like idea sparkers. I've got a hot topic cheat sheet for you. You may not choose any one of those specific topics, but they will help get your mind racing around what topic would be best. These are based on what's trending now, what we've seen work. And just like I said, to give you a springboard, say, oh yeah, that's not exactly what I wanted to do, but that's a good idea. I can expand on that. So get that cheat sheet to help you. So with the client avatar worksheet and the hot topic worksheet, you can kind of start to match it up and really zero in on the topic for your webinar and what points you should be covering in your webinar to hook people and get them to stay. It's not like a live workshop where once you get people in the door, they're pretty much going to stay. It's considered rude for people to get up and walk out in the middle of the workshop. Some people do it, but not very many. But if they're watching your webinar online, it's very easy for them to click away. So you want to be sure that you're keeping them hooked throughout your webinar. And going through this exercise will help you do that. If you're working with my team, we'll go through some of these exercises with you and collaborate together and come up with your ideal avatar and with your ideal topics. When you're building out your webinar, just please remember that you're not talking to other lawyers, and this is not a legal treatise. This is not a lecture that you're giving at, a CLE program. The best way for you to get your point across is to use stories. So one of the things that we help our clients do is think about specific stories that illustrate the points that they want to hit in their webinar. Stories help us explain things that are maybe difficult concepts. And if we use a story, people can relate to that. They begin to have their imagination gets working. They begin to have pictures in their head about that story. And that gives us, like a common ground of shared understanding. But more importantly, the way that we tell the story and the stories that we choose should evoke emotions, because people cannot make decisions from their analytical side of their brain. They make decisions from their emotional side, and they then justify them with the analytical side. But the analytical side of our brain gets us into this analysis paralysis. And I hear a lot of attorneys complain to me that their prospects are stuck in analysis paralysis. And sometimes the attorney is the one who's put them in that because of the strong focus on education. We have to help people make good decisions. And the way we help them do that is we use stories instead of a lot of legalese. And so we don't overload on education, but we illustrate the importance and the issues and the problems and the solutions with stories that people can connect to. That helps them engage the emotional side of their brain, and then they can make a decision. It is impossible for humans to make decisions without emotion. And I think you've probably heard this elsewhere. You've heard it over and over, not just from me, that we kind of decide from our heart and then we back it up from our head. So yes, there's always a level of education that has to go on, but in the webinar, you really want to be heavy on the stories that illustrate the problems. And then when you get down to that initial consultation and you're talking about, what the plan is going to do and how it's going to work, that's when you will bring in more education on the legal side of things. But in your webinar, you want to really connect with people as much as you can on an emotional level. And you do that by telling stories that illustrate the issues, that illustrate the concepts. So even right now, even if you don't really have a webinar strategy yet, you might be thinking about the stories that you would use. A very good exercise is when you think of one, write it down on an index card and just kind of make a stack. And you just put enough on that index card to remind you of the story. So then when you get down to the point of actually building your webinar, you can go through those index cards. And if you're doing this kind of creatively, you might have 20 or 30 of those index cards because you have a lot of stories. And you're probably going to pick out 4 or 5 of those stories to use in your webinar. You can't tell all of them because people will click away, they'll get bored. You want to pick out the best ones. So if you're thinking about doing a webinar now, you might just grab a stack of index cards and start writing down a note of a story that you think would work really well to illustrate a point. Just to kind of back that up, if we were to try to make purely rational decisions, we'd have to analyze an overwhelming amount of information. And that's why too much information pushes prospects, pushes any of us into our analytical mind where decisions can't be made. I see this a lot of times with people who call us and they want us to help them with their marketing. They're struggling with their marketing and they cannot get themselves out of the information gathering stage. It's like, I have to weigh my options. I have to talk to this person. I have to talk to that person. Do you have some more of your clients that I could speak to? There's like an endless amount of information that they want to collect. And meanwhile, they're not getting their marketing done. Meanwhile, clients are going elsewhere. Meanwhile, their bank account is starting to strain, right? So we have to always be helping people make good decisions. It's not being manipulative. It's just helping them get past that analysis paralysis so that they actually take action and solve their problem. And that's why it's so important to make those emotional connections. When you're telling your stories, you want to tell them in a persuasive manner. That means match your vocabulary to your audience. Now, that's where that client avatar worksheet can really be important. If, for example, your primary audience are farmers and ranchers versus another attorney whose primary audience is physicians in metro areas looking for asset protection, the language between those two webinars, those two types of storytelling, going to be very, very different. And, if you're talking to the farmers and ranchers in the same way that you would talk to physicians in a metro area, you're going to fall flat, and vice versa. You can't kind of bring that down home, comfortable language into that more formal market. So know your market and know how to adapt your language in your storytelling. When you do that, it's much easier for you to change your perspective and actually step into the shoes of your ideal client. Don't talk to them like a lawyer, okay? Talk to them like like you're one of them. And when you shift your language, it's much easier to shift your perspective at the same time. I know for us, when we are speaking to prospective clients who are lawyers, we always start with a pretty formal language until we get to know the person and we can feel better, have a better feel for what's comfortable for them. And we mirror back to them the language that they're using with us. So a lot of estate planning and elder law attorneys are very casual and very informal in their language. And that's very comfortable for us. But every so often, we come across people who are very formal. And we have to keep that formality in order to really have a good connection with that prospective client. Again, on your stories, the best ones are real. Some people will make up stories to illustrate a point. The best stories are real stories. And I find that when our clients bring their real stories, they tell them much more passionately. They tell those real stories with much more emotion, because you can even see in the demeanor of the delivery that they are remembering this client. They are remembering this outcome. And they are either really super happy that they were able to get this outcome for this client, or they were sad to see that this turned out this way because it was a mistake that the client made or the prospective client made. So when you're thinking of your story ideas, really try to make sure that they're real. Obviously, you're going to change the names, but you're going to have a much stronger delivery if they are real stories. And don't be afraid to use your own story. A lot of you have very compelling, very interesting stories as to why you do this work. And you can tell about your parents, or you can tell about a sibling, or even, your significant other. If you have that kind of a story, please do not be afraid to use it. It can be very, very powerful. People can relate to you when you have that kind of authenticity in your story. So make sure that try to use stories that are real. And if you have a great story of your own, don't be afraid to use it. It can be extremely powerful. Now, you want to, in your slides, when you tell the story, you want to pair it with what we call artifacts, something that will be a visual to help people connect to that story. Now, it can be something inanimate. It could be an infographic. It could be a chart. It could be books. It also could be stock photography. It could be real photography. If you've got permission to use real photos, those are much more powerful than anything else. Now we've got AI that can create images, but you want to be sure that to give them something visual that they can tack into that story, or tack that story onto that visual so they can remember the story. If, like I said, if you've got real photographs of real people and you have permission to use those, very, very powerful. When you're telling your own story, you may use some of your own photographs. I remember one of our clients who has an amazing, very compelling, persuasive story about his father. And in his webinar, he's using pictures of him as a little boy with his father. And it's really very, very powerful in that webinar. When you come down to the conclusion of your webinar, you don't want to start telling them there are lots of ways to solve this problem. You could do non-probate transfers. You could do a will and go through probate, all these things that would be the options that you might have at the end of an initial consultation if you're showing people the different options to solve their problems. At the end of your webinar, there's only one solution to all these problems. Don't go into all of the various legal ways that we would solve the problem. The solution to solving these problems is to book a call. Because what they need to do is get on your calendar and talk either to you or to someone on your team and find out whether you can help them. Do they have a problem that you can help? That's the call to action for the webinar. That's the solution for all the problems. Because you can't be giving them advice, and you don't want to put them into analysis paralysis. You don't know what the solution to their problem is because you don't know them. You don't know what their problem is. And you don't want to give them a whole bunch of options, because what are you going to do? Analysis paralysis. You give them a very clear next step that will actually help solve their problem, put them on the path to solving their problem. And that's that book, that call. If your own schedule is too busy that you don't have time to take these discovery calls, then get someone on your staff trained. James offers training through his Total Sales Mastery program. You can get your staff trained to handle these discovery calls. And the discovery call should be short. It should be 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's really to discover whether you can help them, whether they have a problem that you can solve. And then you get them into yours, probably on your calendar, for an initial consultation. I want to talk just a minute about the slides themselves. One thing that I see and just makes me cringe, I see so often, PowerPoint's really simple program to use poorly, right? You guys have all seen terrible slides. A lot of lawyers will just do their own slides and they just look horrible. They look so amateurish and so cheap. And when you do that, you're going to turn off people who are looking for that doctor frame, who are looking for that expert, that professional. Go ahead and invest in having your slides professionally designed. Don't just assume that you have an eye for it, because the chances are you don't. And the other thing is, there are a lot of tips and tricks within PowerPoint to make the slides work for then recording video from them. You don't want to be spending your time being a PowerPoint designer. Have your slides professionally designed. You've all heard of the law of attraction. The energy that you put out is what you're going to attract, and they call that harmonic congruence. So if your presentation looks cheap, you're putting out that I cut corners energy, right? I saved a few dollars energy. You're going to get prospects who are going to pump you for free information. They're going to price shop you, and then they're going to hire the lowest bidder. If you have that mindset, then that's who you're going to attract. And sometimes when I hear attorneys complain about all the tire kickers and all the people who want, to just pump them for free information, I kind of, smile a little bit to myself, because I think, well, of course that's who you're going to attract, because you're exactly like that. But when you pursue excellence, then you will attract people who are also in the pursuit of excellence. And they won't be tire kickers, and they aren't looking for the lowest bidder. They're looking for the best. So that's the energy that you want to put out there, that you pursue the best, and of course, that they will as well. But if you're putting that energy out there, that what I actually do is I try to cut corners everywhere I can and save every dime, that's who you're going to attract. And, webinar is a very revealing medium for you. It's your thoughts, it's your words, it's your presentation. So everything about your energy is going to come across in that webinar. And so you think about who you want to attract and make sure that that's the energy that you're putting out in every aspect of your marketing, including your webinar. So if your slides look sloppy and haphazard, if they get cut off when they're recorded on video or streamed online or posted to Instagram, no one's going to see you as that trusted professional who is worthy of that premium fee. In other words, just get professional design and you'll book more business with better clients at higher fees. Another mistake is just reading the slides verbatim. If you're going to put word for word what you're going to say, just let somebody read it. Just make a white paper instead. You really want to put some preparation into recording your webinar. So I like for people to work with my team before the recording session and then do some practice. One thing that happens is that people just don't put enough practice into the webinar, and they think, because you guys are all very articulate and you talk about this stuff all the time, you think you're going to get on camera and it's going to be fine. There's a few things that happen when you get on camera. The first thing is you're worried about the time frame, because you know that you want to get this webinar recorded in 20 minutes, 25 minutes. You don't want it to go to an hour. So all of a sudden, the clock is like giving you some nervousness, and you're afraid to tell too much of your story because you're going to run over, and you're afraid you might cut out too much and then it won't be compelling. So practice with a clock or a timer of some sort, so you can feel really comfortable with what you're going to say. Now, you don't go down rabbit holes and take up all your time, get people bored, but you don't delete anything that's really compelling. And the other thing is, people just sometimes just get a little bit of stage fright when the camera's on and you're recording. It happens to me. It's always shocking to me. Anytime I'm getting ready to do a recorded piece, like an ad or something, I'm going to put this on Facebook as an ad. As soon as I turn on the camera, it's like, so you have no idea what I'm going to say. So practice. Even, you may be very, very comfortable with the topic, but go ahead. You're going to make an investment in this marketing campaign. Give yourself some time to practice. Go over it 2 or 3 times before your recording session. You'll feel so much more comfortable when you really sit down to record, that if you've done that practice. So map out your strategy before you ever get started with your webinar marketing. What is it that you want to achieve? Stay focused on that goal. Keep your text on your slides, particularly, very succinct. The slides should just sort of be like bullet points to remind you what you were going to talk about, not like the whole thing written out. Use really high quality images, because remember, that's the visual tack for the story. It's like how people will remember it is by that visual that you give them. Keep your colors and your branding, your overall design consistent. And if you have a professional designing your PowerPoint, be sure that you give them those things. Give them your high quality, high resolution logo. Give them your color palette. And if you don't have that, then you need to work on that part of your marketing. And then rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. You'll have such a better result if you do that. Now, let's say you've gone through all that. You've got a great webinar. You're really, really happy with it. How are you going to convert the leads that webinar generates? You need to be able to boost your conversion rate, okay? Leads that aren't converted immediately go cold. The average consumer has to be followed up with 5 to 7 times before they book that call. So just because they watched the webinar doesn't mean they're going to immediately book a call. So there are things that we can do to help get those people booked and get them converted. First one is, make sure you have enough availability on your calendar for people to book right away. Oftentimes that means it's not your calendar. It's going to be someone on your team. It's going to be a staff person's calendar. Like I said, if that is your situation, that person may need some training, and you can get some training with James in his sales mastery class. I have had clients come in and invest in the whole webinar campaign and then only open up on their calendar 2 hours a week. I literally had that happen. From 12 to 2 on Tuesdays is the only time that they would take calls from their webinar, from their book a call. It didn't work. I probably don't even have to say that. If someone is going through their webinar and then they're ready to book a call and it's going to be a month before they can get in, firstly, they're not going to book it. And secondly, even if they do book it, they're probably not going to show up. So it's really important for this strategy, in order for it to work, you've got to have a calendar on your website that is open, lots of spaces. So you want people to book like tomorrow. So if I'm watching this webinar today, I want them to get on the calendar tomorrow, if possible, and not more than 3 days out. They shouldn't have to wait more than 3 days, because those leads will go cold and your show up rate will go way down. Now, the other thing is, that a lot of people are going to watch that webinar and they're going to think, yeah, I really want to do this, but I'm not ready to book right now. That's human nature. So you want to be sure that you have plenty of automations in your CRM to engage people, to continue to add value and remind them to book the call. So you want to have that all set up before you launch any kind of advertising into your webinar. And then the third thing is you can expand the audience. You can get more people, more eyes on your webinar by syndicating your content, by syndicating bits and pieces of your webinar across the internet, across multiple platforms. So the more eyes on your webinar, the more leads you're going to get, and the higher your conversion rate, the more money you're going to make. It's really simple, but sometimes we have to be reminded of the things that are really simple. If we have 100 leads and we, with no follow-up, and we convert 30%, then we're going to have 30 cases. And maybe that's over a month or 2 months. And if your average fee is $2,500, then you're going to make $75,000. Now, if you add the follow-up and you boost the conversion ratio to 50%, and that means you're going to have 50 new cases, same average fee, $125,000. Now, if we have more people, more eyes, look at the third chart there, 1,000 leads, more eyes on that webinar, same conversion rate, same average fee, look what happens to the revenue. So we start with a great webinar, but then we have to do like 3 things. We want to get more eyes on that webinar so that with our conversion rate, it's just math. The more people that see it, the more revenue we're going to drive. We want to boost our conversion rate, and we want to boost our average fee. When we do all those things, the webinar can be like the thing that revolutionizes your practice. And one of the reasons is it's insulated from those Google changes, and we have these levers that we can pull. Everything is data driven. So we can say, at this point, we just need to get more people to see the webinar. Then we can say, right now we got a lot of people seeing the webinar, but we're not converting enough. So we need to work on our follow-up. We need to work on that call to action. Well, we got a lot of calls booked, but we're not converting them. So now we got to work on our sales process. So the data can show us exactly how we can get to these really big numbers because the math adds up. So guys, the more people we can get to see this webinar, the better the webinar is, and the better that we can convert, the more your ROI is going to increase. So do you want to be doing these live webinars or live workshops, or do you want to be doing them online? Either way, you want to be sure that people are able to book immediately. So if you're doing a live workshop, you're going to follow a lot of these same rules and make sure that people can book at the workshop. You have somebody who's ready to get people booked right then and there. With an online webinar, you want to share the booking link in your webinar and on the landing page where the webinar is presented. Make it very, very, very easy for them to book immediately. Then you want to email that booking link out immediately after the webinar ends. So you should have an automation in your CRM that when someone has completed the webinar, bam, they get an email with the booking link in their email box. So they're not relying on them, finding it at the end of the webinar. And then you might even consider testing, giving them an incentive for an immediate booking. So if you book within the next, 24 hours, $500 off your plan. I don't normally do that, but I have seen others do it. I have seen clients do that very successfully. So think about it. It might be something you would want to test, give it a try, see how it works for you. It is one of the levers that you can pull in this whole process. So make sure that you have that series of follow-up emails ready to go before you launch your webinar. Make sure your automations are set up, and then your ongoing drips afterward. Okay, even maybe you have a series of 6 or 12 follow-up emails, and then you push them onto your e-newsletter or your blog digest. Every week you can add an email to your drip and make it, extend it out. And then after 12 weeks, you can even loop it back to the beginning. That's one thing that we help our clients do. When clients come to us and we say we're going to build your webinar funnel, people often think that it's like a two-step process. We're going to build the webinar and then we're going to run the ads, and that they're like two totally separate things. There's all these automations, all these emails, all this work goes into it before we ever launch anything. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do all that myself, you don't have to. We can help you do that. We can do that for you. You may be, but this is the process. If you don't have that follow-up automated, you're going to lose a lot of the ROI that you could have had from your webinar marketing. Now, I want to talk about ways that you can syndicate this content. So you've developed this really great long form video. That's your webinar. What can you do with it to get, besides just have it inside your webinar funnel? Where can you use it? Where else can you use it? So I'll give you some ideas, okay? One is you can strip out the audio and put it into a podcast. So you could just like have an audio version of it for a podcast. You could upload it to YouTube. Now you want to upload it to an optimized YouTube channel, and you want to be sure that the file is optimized, and you want to be sure that your description of the video is optimized. And I always recommend that you get that long form webinar video optimized and on an optimized YouTube channel. You could upload your slides to an online program like SlideShare. That's another place where you're online. You could get a transcript made of your webinar, and you could use the whole thing or pieces of it on your blog as a blog post. You can grab screenshots for social media. You can create video snippets. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that for social media, for your blog, for video ads. You can email the replay link to everyone who registered, and then you can set up a Facebook campaign with the replay link. So there's so much that you can do once you have this one piece of long form video. So one thing that we've seen has been extremely successful, and again, it insulates you from the vagaries of Google search. Optimize your YouTube channel for your local search for your primary keywords. Optimize that channel first. Then optimize your video file and upload it to your optimized channel. Write a great description, and in that description include links to your website, and then write a great headline and publish that long form video first. Do that one first. You may find that it gets indexed and starts showing up in local search right away because your competitors are not doing this. We find a lot of times even we're hitting a national audience, not a local one. So we have tremendous competition. We're up against a lot of big names that you guys already know about. When we do these videos, like this one we're doing right now, and we upload that to YouTube, we can show up in Google's organic search on page 1 in the little section where they have like videos, because we're the only ones that are doing it. We're the only ones that have that content. So you guys can use that strategy as well. Then take that long form video of your webinar and have it cut into short clips. Now you can have video editors who can do this for you. We can do this for you. You also can try, there's a lot of new AI platforms coming out where you can upload your video and it will cut it up into clips for you. If you want to try that, the quality of the clips will vary, but you can either way. You can have an editor do it for you, or you can use an AI platform to do it for you. But what you want to do is two things. When you're recording your webinar, I want you to think in terms of segments, which we help you do that when we help put together your script. And then I want you to cut this into little clips that are about 60 seconds at the top, okay, about a minute per clip. Now, some platforms will take much longer clips, but that 60-second clip is going to help you across the majority of the platforms. So that's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. In the bonus materials, I have a cheat sheet that tells you all the specs that you need for each platform: YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you stick to that 60-second time limit, then your videos can go into YouTube Shorts, and then they can work everywhere else as well. But YouTube Shorts have to be 60 seconds or less. If you're 61 seconds, it won't become a YouTube Short. You can still upload it, but it won't be a short. The really cool thing about the shorts that we've seen is at the end of the YouTube short, you can say, what's the related video? And you can direct people back to your long form video on YouTube. So you have all these little shorts that you produce, and you can drip those out one a week, one a day, and the shorts get a lot of views. They're optimized, so the people that are searching for these topics will see the short, and people will watch a 60-second YouTube short. And then at the end of that short, they can get directed to the full webinar. So here's how, let me see if I have a slide on this. Okay, let me just talk you through this. What we've seen is the long form video. Google search, organic search loves that. And YouTube search loves that. So you want to have the long form video, but you'll find that the YouTube shorts, the short videos, get way more views. So you really want to have both. You want to have the long form and the shorts. And then you distribute these little clips out across all the social platforms. And from one piece of long form video, you can literally have hundreds of instances of visibility online across multiple platforms. And as I said before, at the beginning of this program, this is all insulated against Google search changes. This is all working for you regardless of what Google decides to do with the algorithm tomorrow. So it's extremely powerful. I find it's very powerful in that webinar marketing funnel, but there's this whole other universe where we can continue to get that ROI from that webinar investment. So if you want more revenue from your workshops and your webinars, converting more leads. And the way to do that is to make sure that you're connecting with your ideal client, getting the best hot topic, doing great with your PowerPoint so that you look really professional, you follow up faster, and then get more eyes on that webinar by putting it across the internet in little clips and make sure it's on YouTube. I just want to show you a few results from some of our clients who are using these strategies with their webinar marketing. One of my clients has, let's see, a targeted Facebook ad. So she's using that paid webinar marketing funnel. All of her automated follow-up is in her CRM. And she's using an interactive webinar. So when people ask a question or answer a question, I'm sorry, it asks a question, people answer a question, they get a little bit different content. And she's having tremendous success with that when she had 11 new estate planning cases directly from that webinar in 1 month. And that's not leads, that's cases closed, that's new business in the door. So this is a strategy that's working very well. I have another client who's using a traditional webinar on elder law, also using a targeted Facebook ad and has that whole funnel built. They're using storytelling very powerfully to highlight mistakes. So they're talking about 5 critical mistakes that in their webinar, and they're using stories to highlight each one of those mistakes, doing a very good job in their webinar production. In the first week that their webinar went live, they had 4 new elder law cases. Now, that is not common. I don't want to raise that expectation that the week that your webinar goes live, you're going to get 4 cases. But I'm saying that this is like the goal. This is what this can happen. This is what this is the result that they got. I have another client that's using the webinar for elder law. And again, they're using that funnel with the targeted Facebook ads and a storytelling approach. And in 1 month, they got 16 new elder law cases that came directly through that webinar. Now, obviously, in these law firms, this is new business. This is in addition to their client referrals and their personal networking and their professional referrals. This is what's coming directly through their advertising webinar funnel. Guys, there's so many ways that you can make this work for you to help you achieve your goals. But you can see that there's a lot that goes into making it work and making it work right. So what did all those clients have in common? They had us to help them. We worked with them to laser target their messages. We design their slides. We collaborate with them on their script writing. We're not like those companies that just have a webinar and say, here's your script, here's your slide, you do this. Now, sometimes, because that is so popular out in the marketplace, clients come to us and they're surprised that that's not what we do. But you can see, as we've kind of walked through this, why that's not very effective. So we work with you to create your authentic webinar that's going to connect with your clients. Then we professionally produce the webinar video. We design the entire marketing funnel, the ads, the ad targeting, the creative, the copywriting for those ads, and we manage the ad campaigns. They get viewer engagement throughout their webinars because of their storytelling, which we coach you through. We talk about that and help you find the best stories that you're going to be able to present well that will connect with your clients. Then they make it very easy for the people that watch that webinar to book a 15-minute call right then and there. So they have calendar availability, and that's the call to action. That's what all of these clients are doing. And the entire process is automated through their CRM. So there's quite a bit of strategy planning and work that we do together to get this up and running. But once it is launched, your job basically is just to meet with clients, take those discovery calls, meet with clients, because we do the rest. Everything is either automated or we're managing it for you. So it is a little bit of an upfront investment of your time and money, but then you like reap all these benefits as it continues to run while you're just, being a lawyer, doing your job. So here's what we covered today, guys, is you need to have a written plan with clear goals. Choose a topic that resonates with your ideal client. Use great stories to illustrate your points. Make sure your slides are professionally designed and give a professional image for you. Make sure that people are able to book a call immediately. Make sure that you then have your follow-up automated so that those people that don't book immediately are still getting reminders and you're still delivering value to those people. And then be sure that you have a plan to syndicate that content from that long-form webinar across the internet. It's just a way to repurpose that content and get more eyes on your webinar and more visibility online. Okay, so I do have a question. Before I go to that question, I want to finish up. We can help you do that. The first thing is I want you to be sure that you get your bonus materials. So there's the webinar workbook, the client avatar worksheet, the hot topics checklist, and then the social video specs cheat sheet. So guys, get out your cell phone, scan that QR code. That'll take you right to the Google folder. If you don't have your cell phone with you, you don't want to scan the QR code, just wait for the replay link. We're going to send that out tomorrow, and we will have the link in there for you to go to that Google folder and get those bonus materials. But, that's like your thank you for staying all the way through to the end today. So let me drop out of here and get to some of these questions. The first question that I have is, what is a reasonable budget to spend on webinar marketing? It's a really good question. It depends on what type of webinar marketing you're going to do. When we look at Facebook ads, like say that funnel that most of our clients are using, where they have a Facebook ad that draws people into the webinar, and we create that whole funnel for them. The way that we do it is a little bit different from some other agencies. We do not roll your ad spend into our fee, and we don't mark up your ad spend, and we don't create your ads in our account. Well, I think that's a little unethical. What I like to do, which has complete transparency, is create your ads and your ad campaign in your account. You add us as a business manager. So should you decide that you don't want us to continue managing your ads, we don't delete your ads or any of your data. that stays with you. What we do if someone does decide that they don't want us to continue managing is we turn the ads off, but we don't delete anything. And the reason we turn them off is so that you have to physically turn them back on, so that you know that you're running ads. So if you get it, continue to get charged, you know that you did that. You had to turn them on. But we built the campaign in your ad account. And so you pay Facebook directly for your ad spend, and there's no markup on it. What we recommend people do is at least $30 a day directly with Facebook. And I'm hoping I'm answering your question there. So $30 a day would be $900 a month as a reasonable beginning advertising budget on Facebook. Now you've got an investment in building the webinar and building the funnel and then having it managed, the ads managed for you. But you need to have that budget to spend directly with Facebook as well. And what we find is at that $30 a day, you kind of run through and figure out, get it optimized. And when it's really delivering to you, your ideal clients, and it's really working for you, then a lot of our clients add budget to that. Now, our management fee does not go up because we don't mark up the ad spend. So a lot of our clients are spending $100 a day now. That's $3,000 a month on their Facebook ads. But that's fine as long as it's delivering, right? As long as you're getting that ROI, that's a perfectly fine investment. I hope that answered your question. How do we know if we're ready for a webinar funnel? Are there standards to be met first? Yeah, let's talk about that. It's a really great question. The first thing is, do you have the budget for it? Because it's going to cost you some money to get the webinar produced professionally. It's going to cost you some money to get your funnel built and all the strategy and planning that goes into it. So do you have the budget to pay for it? Or can you allocate the budget for it? The other one is, do you have systems in place? Is there somebody that can take those discovery calls? Do you have a calendar availability? If you're a true solo and you have absolutely no one with you, can you answer the phones? Because you don't want to send these over to an answering service. You want someone to answer that call who and is trained and knows how to handle that call. And then I guess, do you have your foundation of your online presence? Because here's what happens if you don't. People, they see your Facebook ad and maybe they click on it and they go watch your webinar. But before they're going to book with you or talk to you or hire you, they're going to check you out online. And even though that webinar is working to get their attention and to get that lead, if you don't have good reviews, if you don't have a good website, if you don't have a good social media presence, if you have not posted to your blog for a year, these are red flags for consumers to say, I don't know if that guy's really legitimate. Or, I can't find anything else about them online. Because, everybody has a little bit of skepticism about paid advertising. So they don't want to fall. They don't want to get scammed. So I really strongly recommend that you have your online presence very well established, because people are going to check you out. The other thing is your ads are going to perform better when everything about your online presence is better. So your cost per lead is going to go down when all of your online marketing is working well for you. And like I said, that organic, where we take that webinar and we clip it up and we put it across the internet, that's going to drive down your cost per lead as well. So okay. So the question is, like, if you don't have your online presence really well established, you've paid a lot of money to get these leads in, and when they check you out, they're going to find somebody else, right? They're going to find other people are going to pop up in their Google search, and then they're going to go off and look at their website, and then you paid to get business for someone else. So it's really something where I always suggest that you get your foundation put in place first, and then the webinar is added on to that. And a lot of people want to jump right to the webinar, and that you can do that, but your advertising costs are going to be much higher. if you do that first. So I always like to see the foundation first and then the webinar. Any other questions? Thanks for those. I think those are great questions. Hope I answered them to your satisfaction. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I hope that this has been really valuable for you, and I'm really glad the internet stayed up for us and we were able to get through the whole thing. We will be sending out the email tomorrow with the replay link so you can watch it again. And if you missed that QR code for the bonus materials, the link for those downloads will be in that email replay link. If you don't already have a webinar with us, we would love to talk to you about working with you to get that to work for you. There's a couple of ways that you can reach out to us. You can just email us, james@estateplanningpartners.com, or you can go to our website, imsrocks.com/apply, APPLY, and that'll pull up our booking calendar right there. So feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about it. No pressure. Just kind of work through the budget and whether it's right for you right now. And I think I probably already told you kind of how we work, how we do it. So there's probably not a lot of questions there. So if you guys want to get that going for you, I think it's a really good strategy, especially with everything that's going on in the market right now. It's a great investment. We're seeing it work very well for our clients right now. So that's it for today. Have a great day, and we will see you next month. Be sure to watch our calendar. We do a monthly webinar training every single month, and we would love to have you as our guest again. Bye-bye.